Well, hello once again. What are we going to do today? Well, we're going to work, of course, as I stated in the last video, we're going to work on our single pricing unit. But there's a couple of things I want to do differently. You know, we're going to work on it, but there's a couple of things I want to show you before we get to that. So bear with me. A couple of videos ago, one of our good subscribers, Paulie H, he said, you know, John, it's too bad you don't have a small sandblasting unit that you could take the rust off those pieces of metal with. You know, it'd be a whole lot better. Well, I told him, you know, I'm going to have to look into that. That's a very good idea, because I'll tell you the honest truth. I'm tired of waiting 3 and 4 days of soaking rust in, you know, navel jelly. It works, yes, but it just takes forever, and I'm to the point now I'm beginning to get impatient with it. It works great on surface rust, but when you have really deep rust, it takes a long time. And that includes evapor rust. Evapor rust can take 2-3 days sometimes, depending on how deep the rust is. So I went online and I started looking around, and I said, let me see, small sandblaster. And then I said, mini sandblaster. What would I looked up mini sandblaster on eBay, and yeah, they had a bunch of them there. But then I said, well, I wonder if Harbor Freight has any of this stuff. Bingo! Harbor Freight indeed did have a mini sandblasting gun. Look at this. Is this the coolest thing? And they have if you want to see how this thing works, go to Harbor Freight and just type in the search block sandblasters and scroll down the next page, and you'll come to this one right here. This is and they have a video there that shows it working. It works off of a, you know, it's just a standard handgun. You hold it. This holds 7 ounces, I believe it is, of glass beads. Okay, and I went ahead and bought it. Plus, I bought a couple of containers of 4070 glass beads, 4070 grit, and the whole thing cost me 37 bucks. This is only like $17 and some cents. I couldn't believe it. That is absolutely perfect. Let's open it up. Well, there she is. Now, is that the coolest thing? It looks like something out of Star Trek, huh? A little phaser. Put the phaser on stun and get rid of that rust. Anyway, this is what's got. I think it worked really great, and it looks really good in the video that's on that Harbor Freight website. I figured maybe old Ron C. down in Florida would be very interested in something like this, and a few others for sure. All I have to do now, you'll have to pick up one of these. This is a air hose fitting, and you know, put it on with some Teflon tape up in there, and then just hook it up, and it takes up to 90 pounds. Let's take a look at the the blast medium, glass beads. That's what it looks like down in there. Very, very fine. It's very fine stuff. I wish I could find something to pour it in. Yeah, here we go. I can pour it right in the top. Let me pour some in the top. And there it is. Very, very fine stuff. It almost looks, it's not even as thick as salt. Very, very fine salt is what it looks like. But they're glass beads. And that will take off that rust in no time. Do check out that video on Harbor Freight for this. I'm really expecting big things out of this. One more thing, you'll of course need to do this outside. Don't be doing it in the house, okay? And wear eye protection, okay? Better to have a full face shield, actually. Remember, this is glass, and it's very, very fine powdery, but even outside, you know, you got to be careful. You know, always be on the safe side. Probably nothing would ever happen if you're outside and you have it on very low air pressure, but you never know. So, Paulie H., I'm going to have to give you a shout out for this. Not particularly this, but for the idea. So what's next? I'll tell you what's next. What's in this box? This is our lighting kit for the Jukebox. That's the ballast. These are the sockets that hold the bulbs. And a couple of starters. Now, a lot of this wiring is very unsafe. It'll take me a little while to, you know, get it taped off. We're going to set it up on the bench, put the bulbs in, and see if they'll work. If not, it means this ballast is bad, or the starters, And I have two brand new starters I picked up downtown at an electrician today. So we're going to go ahead and put the starters, these starters in, I guess. To heck with the old ones. We'll just get rid of them. And there is a way I can get, even if the ballast is bad, it turns out the ballast is bad and the lights won't light, then there is a way to install separate ballasts, one for each light, because there's two fluorescent lights in this thing, one for each light, and it will be used with the starter, which is what I want. I want the lights to blink on. I don't want them to just bang, come on. That's not the way it was done in the old days. We're doing something that was done in the old days. So let's get all this crap out, you know, make all the wires safe and everything, and determine how I'm going to plug it in, get the bulbs, you know, between the sockets, and let's see what happens. Well, there it is. Looks kind of complicated, huh? And a bunch of wire laying around trying to figure out what goes where. But I'll tell you, you know, if you've watched my videos for a while, you should already know that nothing is complicated. We'll just figure it out, that's all. So let me get this stuff stretched out as far as I can, separated, and some tape around. I'll use some electrical tape on the bare wires, because eventually we're going to, if it all works, eventually we'll go ahead and change all these wires out. We'll put nice new wire in, and I'll get back with you as soon as all that is done. Well, we got everything pretty much stretched out here. There'll be a few wires I'll have to disconnect. However, it's possible my brilliant idea has been shot down in flames. Let's take a look at here. I don't know. Maybe we can salvage this, but I don't think so. Look where this wire goes into that hole right there. Look what we got here. What a mess. A couple of strands left over. Oh. Well, the only thing we can do, we have nothing to lose at this point. Let's go ahead and open up this ballast. Take these tabs off. Open up the ballast and see if there's not a place in there we can strip this wire back and resolder it. If not, it's going in the trash. Well, as you can see on the opposite end from where we were just a second ago, someone has already bent these tabs out. Ooh, because, you know, I bent this one back and it's already ready to break off. But I'm not worried about that. We could always put some glue in there or whatever, you know, to keep it going. But look at all these dig marks and everything around this tab. Someone has been in this thing before. It'd be interesting to see what it looks like now. And as if we needed further proof, this newspaper was in here and it fell out. Look at the date on this thing. You're going to love this. Well, at least we know someone was in here in 1992. Well, here's what we've got so far. First of all, that newspaper was from North Tampa, Florida. You'll remember that I told you this jukebox was originally in Florida, wound up in Alabama. Now it's in Arkansas. Anyway, here's what we've got inside this thing. We have two transformers. One here and one here. And they work in conjunction with the starters. Well, I don't like the looks of any of this. It could be good. It might not be. I don't know. I'm not going to risk my jukebox catching on fire or having crap melt all out of this all the way down on the inside. So, since we have two transformers, each one separate, working each of the individual fluorescent light bulbs, if that's the case, then I might as well go back to the electrical shop where I bought these starters, and he has a couple of transformers back there. They're brand new that I can use. I just bolt them right to the wall of the inside the cabinet. Each one will be separate, and it'll have a separate starter, and it will light the light bulbs. We're not going to use this crap. I'm not going to do it. You know, if I was on a budget or something, or I was down and out in Beverly Hills, I'd say, yeah, we'll try to make it work. This looks too dangerous to me. Sometimes you have to make the call, okay? You can't fix everything. Are you ready? Chop. 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 Trash. Let's get to work on this single pricing unit, this SPU1. Look at there. JP Seeburg in Chicago. I hadn't even really read that part before. I just looked at the SPU1. What we're going to do is basically, you know, take this brush right here. It's just a long paintbrush I borrowed from Wifey. We're going to soak it in alcohol and just start cleaning around We're going to start with some contacts. I'm going to go ahead and scrub them up real quick, and then I'll be right back. Well, there's a couple of sets of contacts. I'll tell you what, they cleaned up really nice. They really did. Those are gold plated. And these are the best looking ones we've seen yet. I really like that. It's kind of neat to see them in that kind of condition, you know. And let me see if I can get this light up here a little bit. See if we can get a better focus. Maybe a little too close, I guess. Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, they look really nice, I think. And we're going to take this old alcohol brush and clean this squeaky relay here. Get that baby so hopefully it won't squeak so much. I'll probably have to add a little bit of oil. We'll see. Now this pricing unit has 4 solenoids, 3 that deal with the money. 5 cent, 10 cent, and a quarter. And then the 4th solenoid is the cancel solenoid. So these 3, this black one right here, that black one you see down there, and this black covered one right here, they're the 3 money ones, a nickel, dime, and quarter. And they work like this, you know, they work just like any other solenoid. They pull something in, just like that. Let's try this one, see if it works. She's working pretty good. And there's one way down there. Let's see if it works. Yep, it does. Okay, now the 4th solenoid, the cancel solenoid, is that big old squeaky sucker that I think I've got the squeak out of. Let's get the light out of our way. I think I got the squeak out of it a little bit. I still haven't put the oil, but after cleaning it with alcohol, nope, still got a slight squeak. And it's not the solenoid, it's the shaft on the inside that goes through into there. So let me go ahead and clean up a little bit more. We're eventually going to come back and apply power to each of these solenoids and see if they'll kick back in, just like we did on the one earlier on the latch solenoid. And of course, someone will always ask, you know, are you going to change the capacitors? Probably so, but I don't know for sure. This is an easy unit to get in and out if need be. I'm going to go ahead and test these things. If they test good, I'm going to leave them because they can be a real problem getting them out. I can get them out. You know, it's not a problem. If somebody got them in there, we can get them out. That's the way I look at things. So there's not that many. There's about 4, maybe 5. And right now the key is to get things clean. Take some contact spray. Let me show you one of the contacts that's going to be the worst to clean. There she be, right there. The contact is down in that hole there, and I've got to get down in there with some spray and a brush and something else without disturbing the position of this arm. You know, if I start bending this arm out of whack, we got a real problem. So I'm going to have to, I guess, just basically do the best I can. Hopefully we'll have contact. I can't get to it from the other side either. It's just too much junk down in there. Ooh, that's going to be a fun time. Now here's a little something I've never seen before. This is a solenoid. We're back to our solenoids. What happens when the solenoid is drawn in? Okay, watch what comes out the back of the solenoid. This is so cool. Let me get my screwdriver in place here. Look at there. It's a little sharp pin that makes contact with this right here. Now I don't know if it flips it all the way over like so or not, but it does make contact with these things right here. Each one does that. It goes out the rear and makes contact. Well, that's pretty slick, huh? I just thought you'd like to see that. And here's yet another set of contacts. I'll have to get to them from down here, I guess, with the brush. I have to go in this way somehow. Maybe get in there. I think I can do that, yep. But they're right there. A little difficult to get to. You got to be careful. And there's probably a second set of points down here on the bottom. So when no matter what position this thing is in, up or down. Let me see if I can get her to move. Yeah, if I get her up or down, there might be another set of contacts between the bottom and the middle there. I don't know. I'll have to, maybe I'll switch this thing around and keep looking to find out one way or the other. Let's see if we can find any more contacts. Now this is why it's important to completely eyeball something that you know nothing about, which I know nothing about this. You know, I just know that it's mechanical with a few wires connected to it. That's all I need to know. You know, I can make it work, and so can you. Or at least I can do my very best to make it work, and so can you. We just cleaned our points and everything, but then, you know, you go back and you really eyeball this thing really closely. You know, every nook and cranny, and you run into what you see right there. Now, what the heck is that copper-looking thing? Let me get my pencil, it's easier to point. That copper-looking thing right there. What is that? When I move this relay, this cancel relay, watch what happens. The points, of course, will change position. But look what happens down here. That thing moves. Well, why would they put that copper thing there? Doesn't make sense. Well, it does if you look, turn the whole mechanism around and look on the back of this thing. You'll see that there is a wire attached to this side right here. And this is a slider that slides back and forth. So as long as it's in this position, it's making required contact, I assume, for something. But when the cancel, I guess it enables the coins to stay in and everything's good to go. But if you hit cancel, or somehow a cancel is hit, it slides that thing off of there and breaks the connection. And when it breaks the connection, these contacts close, and that is broken. I don't know what happens when that. I guess it cancels the number of. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the coin return or something. I don't really know. I'm going to go ahead and try to clean that up. There is a wire, like I said, connected to the back of this thing. It's a yellow wire connected back here. So let's try to clean that up and see what it looks like. Now that we have this thing cleaned up a little bit, we can get a better idea of what's happening here. That's a phenolic piece that's just riveted in place. There's no metal there at all. So when the cancel relay is activated, like so, that copper thing right there, which is now in contact with the phenolic the piece of phenolic there, having no electrical contact at all, what happens is when this thing comes across, it moves it off that phenolic wafer and puts it over here, and these pins close up there. This provides some kind of electrical signal up that deal from here, up here, and all the way up into here where it contacts apparently this here. Who knows? You know, this thing is quite a bit, but I do know one thing. There is a wire on the back of this thing right here. So until this slider moves across, there's no contact with that wire. We'll have to sit down later on and try to figure out how this works as a cancel relay. Anyway, let's move on. I decided before moving on, maybe we better put a little dielectric grease in there. So I went ahead and just I moved this out of the way, put a little bit of grease in there. It won't hurt it any up. It needed it because it's wearing a groove in this metal right here. Pretty soon there won't be any contact at all. Got to have some kind of a lubrication down there. All the contacts have been cleaned with the exception of this one. I was even able to get that funky looking one down in there finally clean. But this one here is, I was going to, you know, maybe run the brush underneath this thing right here. Remember I told you to get up there? Unfortunately, it won't go. Not enough space. Well, what do we do now? Well, lucky me. Look at over here. There's a big old giant hole that Seeburg was kind enough to supply me with, and now I can get the brush right up in there as soon as I'm just going to use my screwdriver and just kind of lift it up just enough to get the hair bristles under there, okay? Maybe get a little closer down here. See, that's all it takes. You don't need to do much. Don't get these things out of adjustment if you ever have to clean one. Well, there's no sense of stretching this particular section of the video on much longer. I mean, you all pretty much got the gist of what I have to do. It's just a matter of cleaning. And I'll be doing that. I've got to glue some paper down. I'll glue that down in place and you know, just small housekeeping things is basically all it is. We've got the contacts all clean, which is the main thing. And I have discovered that as our relays go in and give us credit, this thing here spins. And it is spinning real nice and everything. Now we will apply power to each one of these relays probably in the next video. I'd like to finish this up in the next video so we can move on to the amplifier, or maybe the selectomatic mechanism. Finish that baby up and then move on to the amplifier, all in the same video. I don't know, but we'll just play it by ear, okay? Well, we pretty much started this video with the lighting. Why not end it with the lighting? And we'll get back to the single pricing unit in the next video again, and that should wrap it up. But we're going to have to modernize the jukebox to a certain extent, and that is that the original bulbs in the jukebox are what they call T12s. They're fairly fat, standard size bulbs. You've seen them all over. Unfortunately, they're not making ballast. They're phasing out the T12, and they're not making ballasts for the T12 anymore. So, you know, why put us in that position? I'm going to have to upgrade to something more modern. However, I wanted to have the same lighting effect in the jukebox with a modern light and a modern ballast that can be used with the starter. I wanted to keep the starter in there. So we have the new starter, we have the new ballast now, and this is the T8 bulb, which is it's about that big, okay? It's a little narrower. It's a little less diameter. Anyway, it puts out the same kind of light, and I like the fact that originally that ballast you saw that I ditched, threw it away, it had two of these inside of it, so now we're going to have to wire each one separately. They had them all connected together inside that box, which is a bunch of crap. We're going to wire these things separately and do a better job in new wiring. Right now I've got everything gator wired together in accordance with this drawing. Now I want to show you this. This is important. You know, I go over this stuff sometimes in big time detail, and some of you might say, geez, he goes into too much detail. Maybe not, because someday somebody may buy a jukebox and decide they're going to restore it. They can always refer back to this stuff, and I guarantee you they'll say, boy, am I glad he went into that in detail, because it makes my life a whole lot easier. Those of you who aren't interested, well, what can I say? Just tag along and enjoy the ride. That's all. This is the way this thing is wired, which was supplied to me, a schematic by Brendan. I transferred it over to a sticky note to carry out to the shop here. He emailed it to me. This is your AC plug, that baby right there. This one's in kind of bad shape. We're going to get another one. One side of it goes into one side of the ballast, which is here. Now these ballasts only have 2 wires, okay? Now you have to make sure the ballast has enough wattage to carry the bulb. And you have to make sure that the starter also has enough wattage to carry the bulb. If you got a high wattage bulb and low wattage capability on these two right here, you'll just burn them up or they'll quit. You'll fry them out. We don't need to do that. So one wire goes into one side of the ballast, the other side of the ballast comes out and hooks to the bulb. The other side of the AC goes down and hooks to the opposite side of the bulb. So far that is a piece of cake. The remaining 2 pins on the bulbs, because there's 2 pins on each end of your fluorescent light, the open 2 pins just go right over with the starter in the middle, right on around to the other pin. That's it. And I've got all of that hooked up with gator wires, exactly like you see it right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug this baby in. I'm going to show you the effect that I want to maintain. Let me back up here a little bit. This is the effect I want to maintain in this jukebox. If I were to use LED lights, that effect would be gone. I don't want that. I do not want LED lights in my jukebox unless it's absolutely necessary, okay? And this is a way around it. So let's go ahead and plug this in. Later on I expect to have a switch where I can flick these lights on and off as needed, but that'll be in the jukebox. But right now we're just plugging and unplugging. So I want you to keep your eye on this light now. Watch what happens. Did you see those flickers? Flick, 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 boom, it finally lights up. That's the way it used to be in a jukebox. Okay? Now I'm going to unplug it, and you're going to see the starter down here that kicks this whole thing off. You want the flicker. Now we're going to have 2 bulbs doing that when we turn the power on to the jukebox. And it's going to be so cool watching those things flicker. Look how bright that is too. It's very nice, just like the original. So we'll go ahead and unplug this. And this time I want you to go ahead and watch this starter. Watch it sparking away, getting ready to ignite the gas inside this bulb. Alright, now let me see if I can. I want to be able to plug it in and have you see it at the same time. See that thing flickering away? See it flickering? There it is. And it stops flickering the minute it lights up the bulb. Cool, huh? Well, I hope you learned something on that. That's kind of a very important thing to me. I wanted that flicker effect. And now we have it. I have to go back and get one more of these. He only had one. He's ordering me the second one, but we're in no hurry. We'll get it in plenty of time to install it. So, until next time, this is John. We're supposed to get some rain tonight. Boy, I sure hope so. The old county has been under a burn ban now for quite a while. Most of the counties in Arkansas are under a burn ban. Things have been really, really dry up until now, which is the, what is today? Today's the 29th of November. And they say it's about a 40% chance. I don't know. They're moving along pretty fast.